31 minutes past the hour, so good to see you. New details for you this morning on President-elect Donald Trump's search for Secretary of State. A senior transition source tells CNN ExxonMobil CEO Rex Tillerson is the leading and likely pick to head Trump's State Department. Sources say Trump and the oil company executive did meet yesterday, but Tillerson left the meeting believing he would be the chosen one. We're told no official announcement on who Trump has decided on will happen until probably middle of this week. But the president-elect did praise Tillerson during a new interview with Fox News. Take a look.
Let me ask you about Rex Tillerson, head of ExxonMobil. Why does a business executive make sense as the chief diplomat?
Well, in his case, he's much more than a business executive. I mean, he's a world-class player. He's in charge of, I guess, the largest company in the world. He's in charge of an oil company that's pretty much double the size of his next nearest competitor. It's been a company that's been unbelievably managed. And to me, a great advantage is he knows many of the players. And he knows them well. He does massive deals in Russia. He does massive deals for the company, or for himself, for the company.
In the meantime, CNN projects Republican John Kennedy has won a runoff race for a Senate seat in Louisiana. That now pads the GOP majority in the Senate with 52 seats. Victor?
All right, let's stay with the presidential transition, where some believe that Donald Trump may be taking a page out of the Ronald Reagan playbook. The president-elect is on track to have one of the most conservative cabinets in some time. Many of his top appointees have records of wanting to roll back regulations, and with Republican majorities in Congress, they appear to be poised for swift confirmations. Here with us, Brian Robinson, Republican strategist and former Assistant Chief of Staff for Communications for Governor Nathan Deal in Georgia, and Theron Johnson, former South Regional Director for Obama's 2012 campaign. President Obama, you were just on Skype a couple of minutes ago. Thank you for doing that there and coming in for us. I want to start with this opinion piece by Meg Jacobs, an author and professor on CNN.com. The headline here is, Trump is appointing people who will hate the agency. They will lead. Jacobs writing that. I'd suggest you read it. For a reminder, on the Reagan playbook, let's go back to Reagan's first inauguration.
Is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem. It is time to check and reverse the growth of government, which shows signs of having grown beyond the consent of the governed.
So, Brian, what do you make of Jacobs' theory that Trump, like Reagan, is appointing people who will undermine or deconstruct these departments fundamentally?
Well, that certainly seems to be the case with Ben Carson at Housing and Urban Development, where he has spoken out regularly about the programs and how counterproductive they are. Probably true of the EPA, where the Carl Jr. CEO is the Labor Secretary with Carl Jr. guys going. So Republicans and conservatives are tired of seeing Republicans going to these positions and then going native, as they say, becoming part of that bureaucratic system. We want somebody to come in there and throw the cards up in the air and see where they land. Trump has promised to be a disruptor, and that is exactly what these appointments suggest he's going to do. And there's a lot of change that needs to happen. There's a lot of downsizing that needs to happen in these agencies, and he promised throughout the campaign to roll back regulations. So I think you're going to see some of that, and these are the guys who have got the cojones to go out there and do it.
Well, you're talking about those reform, right? What Jacobs is saying is dismantling, undermining the department and the point of the department. Theron, what's your view?
Well, I think you pointed it out. I mean, never in history have you seen so many people being appointed to positions that they have actively opposed and have made a career out of. But what's very interesting to me is that Donald Trump ran on this, I want to drain the swamp, I want to basically, disable the financial campaign, to actually getting people in the federal government agencies who have policy experience to make sure that those agencies work for the American people. That is the big problem with a lot of these picks that he made.
Let's look at a few of the picks, put them up. We've got Tom Price, who's been chosen ahead Health and Human Services, who said on the record that that department is getting in the way of providing good care from doctors to their patients. Scott Pruitt, who many would call a climate change denier, is going to lead the EPA. Betsy DeVos at Education, who's talked about the virtues of moving to charter schools. And then you've got Andrew Pudzer, the pending Labor Secretary, who's spoken about the virtues of employing robots instead of humans. But let me come back to you, Theron. There are some who say that this is going to happen anytime you move from one party to another. that these guys who are coming in are dismantling the department. Is this not just a theoretical change that's happening? It's not that they're going to dismantle it. You just don't like the changes.
Well, yes. I mean, listen, Republicans said the same thing when President Obama was elected and also President Clinton. But here's the difference, Victor. They also made attempts to reach across party lines, to bring in someone from the opposite party. Also what Donald Trump is doing...
Is it a token Republican, or are they really making changes?
No, but what Donald Trump is really doing, he is yet to really reach across the aisle and put a very prominent Democrat or someone who actually can appeal to the progressive wing of our party. But what Donald Trump is really doing, he's appointing people who are against the mainstream Republican Party. If you go position by position, these are all people who are anti-establishment, and many of whom are part of that swamp that he promised to drain. That's the big difference with these appointments.
I see you smiling here.
That's because the entire premise is that the purpose of these government agencies is to carry out a liberal mindset and a liberal worldview. That you've got to be for for changing the climate. You've got to be for Section 8 housing. You've got to be for Medicaid expansion. What Trump's appointees are doing are reflecting the views of Republican voters throughout the country whose views have been blocked out by the Obama administration. There are no conservatives heading up agencies in the Obama administration. This is just a changing of the guard. The entire idea is that conservatives are going to bring their worldview to these agencies. There's nothing wrong with that. The attack that Donald Trump is actually getting right now is from conservatives in the Republican Party. When you got John McCain coming out saying he has strong concerns about the Secretary of State nominee, these are attacks that he's receiving from his own party now. So that's the one thing to watch here.
I would point out that's one nominee and that's one voice thus far. But again, he's moved to the front of the pack in what the last 30
Many will come later, yeah.
All right, Theron, Brian, good to have you.
Thanks, Victor.
All right, Krista.
Always a good conversation. Thank you, gentlemen. 6 months after the Pulse nightclub shooting, remember, 49 people died there. But there were 101 people rescued from inside that club. Well, we are learning this morning more about what it was like to save them from the SWAT officers who were there.
Where will the lead take us today? Straight to the source.
Would Israel be willing to go along with those demands?
To a side you haven't seen.
That sounds like a young man's game.
All the way to the heart of the problem.
What is going on in Ferguson, Missouri, in downtown America?
Maybe all the way to the president.
You think you were naive back then?
The Lead with Jake Tapper. Weekdays at 4.